Hello and welcome. Today we're looking at Dallas Fuel's attack on Junkertown versus Seoul Dynasty. So first, let's look at the team compositions. Dynasty is running a quad tank with double support. Obviously that offers a ton of survivability, damage potential is reasonably high, although not as dependable or consistent as if they had 2 DPS. This composition generally wants to stay tight, as if they were a deathball composition. However, when they engage, they're going to want to go in as if they were a dive composition. That's mainly due to the Lucio. Now, when they do engage, they're going to want to go in as a 5 or 6 man unit. That's mainly due to the Ana. She can decide, depending on the situation, if she wants to play within or outside of the deathball composition. Now, this team is looking for long, drawn-out fights. They're going to be very scary. As long as they engage correctly, they can wear down their opponents very, very well. Mobility on this team is somewhere in the middle. Not so great, not so bad. They have the Winston, they have the Lucio, they have the Diva. This is going to help them with mid-fight rotations and repositioning. There's almost no flanking potential on this team. It's pretty much non-existent, but that's okay because it goes against the spirit of what this composition is trying to accomplish anyway. You could make an argument for Roadhog setting up for some interesting plays, but generally speaking, that's probably not what this team wants to do, especially since ever since Roadhog's changes. He doesn't really excel at that anymore anyways. Now, it's going to be up to Dynasty to make all of the engagements, and that's not very weird for escort maps on the defense. However, because of Fuel's composition, which we will talk about in a moment, it's going to force Dynasty to make basically 100% of the engagement. So we'll start talking about that in a moment. So first, let's talk about what Fuel's running. They're basically running an extremely high pressure composition. They have the Bastion for sustained damage. They have the Widow and Hanzo for picks and indecent damage anyways. And again, they have the Halt and Hook combo for more picks. Not to mention Orisa and Roadhog have a good amount of damage anyways. This is a very high threat, high pressure composition. Looking for picks, looking to deny space, and it's really important that they set up very well before a fight starts. So their engagement tools are very weak outside of hook and picks. So it's really important that they set up, they spread out, they get multiple angles of attack. They really, set up in a very intelligent manner, which they do, especially on point A, first point. We'll see that in a moment. And they basically want to let Dynasty come to them. They're basically saying, hey, we think that, we can kill you if you come into us. So it's not up to Fuel to make the engagements. So with that, it's very important, and we're going to see this in the first couple seconds of this video. It's very important that Fuel clear space. They need to make sure they have all the space they can work with and spread out. Again, Dynasty has decent mobility, and Fuel has almost none. Their mobility is very, very poor. You can make an argument for some mobility with Mercy. She's going to bounce around a bit, but outside of that, all you really have is a bit of grapple and some wall climbing, and that's basically all you're looking at. So not a lot of mobility. Survivability, deceptively decent, actually. Obviously, you only have the single healer. However, you have self-healing with the Roadhog, self-healing with the Bastion, damage reduction with Roadhog and Orisa, and Bastion. So not too bad at all. So this is actually a super interesting match, and I think a lot of people enjoyed it just because of the diversity of what we saw here. These compositions are very unique, especially since, we recently just came out of a very heavy dive meta. So super fun. So let's jump into the action, because this game was awesome. Okay, so here's that clearing space we talked about. Immediately they check that corner, and boom, they're rewarded. So that's it. They already have half of this map covered due to that pick. So this goes again with what we're talking about. They're looking for picks. They're looking to clear space. Now they have tons of space to work with, which they will use. Now notice right there. Oh, darn it, just missed it. Let me try that again. Let me go back.
Very good hit scan player. Obviously, we've seen it mostly on Soul.
Right there. Oh, darn it. Okay, there it is. Finally. You see a pesky Ana. So we talked about earlier how Ana can... I believe this... I looked at this video, and I think this was a conscious decision from Jaehong. I think he wanted to wait here. So he's playing outside of the death ball, like we talked about. I think this was a decision because he thought that he could get a nice sleep dart and or nade onto the Bastion, which... he kind of does. We'll break that down in a moment. But I think that was the thinking there. And it actually works out pretty well. Some other things go wrong, but in terms of that play, it actually works out very well. So let's Let's keep this going.
A first. And,
Dynasty just has to back off, give them room, and here we see Effect going for this flank. This is awesome. So right here, let me pause this right about, that'll do. Okay, right here. So what you see here is a 3-2-1 split. You have these three, Hanzo, Mercy, and Bastion over here, just off screen. Then you have the tanks on the cart, and Effect going for a flank. So again, this is a 3-2-1 split, very effective. They're doing exactly what they need to do, spread out, and this is going to be a nightmare for Fuel because guess what? Like we talked about, they need to engage as a strong 5 or 6 man unit and kill something, right? However, now they're going to have a tough decision about who to engage and how and when, and that's going to be tough for them. So they're actually going to initially go for the tanks, which is exactly what Fuel is looking for. That's what they want. That's awesome. However, unfortunately for Fuel, Effect is going to miss a ton of shots on the Widow, and that's basically why this doesn't work. If it wasn't for that, this would have been a clear and easy first point take. Cool. So let's play this out.
On the Widow is going for the longest flank.
So there's that dive onto the tanks. This is exactly what Fuel wants, but again, we're going to see a lot of Widow misses. And to be fair, this dive was actually a little bit out of sync, a little bit sloppy, considering it's Dynasty. You would expect a slightly better engagement there, but still, it's okay. And then now you're going to see that mid-fight adjustment. They're gonna realize, oh, we've been baited. There's nothing but tanks here, and the Bastion's all the way off on the side. So they're gonna have to reposition, rotate, and go for that Bastion.
So sneaky, another hook comes in as a dive from Soul tries to.
So they're trying to put that pressure on that Bastion. They take him down. He's gonna get rezzed, and Jaehong's doing a really good job of landing what he needs to on that Bastion. I think he sleep darts him right here. There it is. You can see on the right side, he got that good sleep dart. So Jaehong's doing a really good job of containing this Bastion. Unfortunately, it's not going to work out in a little bit, which we will see why. So for the next few seconds, we're going to see some back and forth. There goes the Bastion, gets booped, set up by that sleep dart. Seagull kills Jaehong. Jaehong got probably a little bit too excited there. Taimo's about to fall as well. And at this point, you would think, okay, cool. Dynasty has this under control. Now they can just set up, just wait for the next fight, wait for the team to come to them. Because again, Fuel's going to have a hard time setting up, right? That's kind of how this composition works. They don't have an easy time engaging. So now it's up. This is Dynasty's fight to lose, which they actually do lose, which we will see why in a moment. Okay, Dragon Strike, zoning ultimate, I guess. Seagull getting a little bit impatient here. He gets hooked and dies, unfortunately, for him. And here we're going to see the mistake from Dynasty. So right here, Harry Hook gets a very good demech onto Zumba. This is huge, and we're about to find out why. So right here, okay, so right here you would think, okay, Dynasty, yeah, they should be totally fine. But you can see on the top of your screen, Miro actually had a fairly bad early game. Actually, I would say on defense for Junkertown, overall, he had a pretty poor game considering his awesome Winston play. Anyways, normally this play would be fine. He's looking to clear space on the high ground, which would generally be pretty safe. He was probably going to finish clearing off that Widowmaker, but the rest of his team already took care of that. So the unfortunate part here is that he's about to get hooked. So he didn't respect the hook, and because Zumba just got demeched, there is almost no follow-up here. So going back to this Fuel composition, it has so much threat. There's so much damage potential. Even though you killed 2 DPS, there's that 3rd DPS. So any other composition, any standard composition, this dive from Miro is perfectly safe. But because this Bastion would probably be like a Lucio or maybe a Zen or an Ana. But this Miro's gonna get destroyed. He's gonna get shredded right here. So let's see this. There's the hook. He even gets the bubble from Munchkin, and actually this just makes matters worse because now Munchkin is out of position. You can see he's at full health, but he had to move forward a bit to give Miro that bubble, which just got decimated anyways. Again because of that 3rd DPS. And now everything's just gonna fall apart for Dynasty. So there goes Miro. There goes Munchkin, there goes Jaehong. They all went out of position to help out Miro, and that's it. It's just that one subtle thing about this composition. It's that Bastion, who is not playing traditionally, right? Because he's not just playing, you know, pirate ship style. They're playing this style where they're all spreading out, and it's a very intelligent, it's unique, very creative style, and it's awesome. So that's basically it. And then, you know, to boot, Widow gets rezzed in the middle of that, and it's just a full steamroll from there. So yeah, that was just awesome, and it's really unfortunate because Dynasty just barely misplayed it. Just some small execution errors there. So right here, Dynasty, they're just looking to ideally bait out some ultimates with the last-ditch effort here. Dallas Fuel is very disciplined. They do not fall for that. They keep their ultimates, and they just keep chugging along. Now, let's talk about these changes here. We just saw the Reaper, the Widow to Reaper swap, and I believe it was Junkrat, Widow to Junkrat? No, it was, what was he? He was Roadhog, that's right. Okay, so let's talk about this Roadhog and Junkrat swap first. I think it's very intelligent. It allows Dynasty to work on that Orisa shield, but without having to put Roadhog in line of sight, because Junkrat can put in a ton of damage without sight lines, especially on a big fatty barrier shield. So very intelligent swap there. The Reaper swap, perfectly reasonable too. Widow she's okay on second point, but not as strong compared to first point. So I think this is perfectly reasonable. Soldier Tracer also would have been okay. They can kind of take care of themselves in a way that Reaper can as well. Because really what you're looking out for is making sure you're not stressing out your Mercy too much. If you spread your Mercy too thin, the composition is going to fall apart. So a Reaper, very smart choice. Cool. All right. So right here, you're going to see some smart zoning from Fleta. So right here, he's not letting Hanzo get this space, which is super, super critical. This is so smart. This point in the middle of second point, this area, like this room, is super critical because it allows for a really easy flank path from the attack. So very smart for that Junkrat to push this out. And it's going to be even more important in a second, so we're going to talk about why. Okay, so there he's zoning this Hanzo. He's zoning, not letting him through, and just making it really hard for him to push. Now, here's what you have to consider. Right now, unlike the first point, where the map is very open, second point is actually quite closed off. There's like this bend, right? It's like this U. So somebody has to push the cart, and it looks like they elect Taimu to do that. So that's one person down. Now, Hanzo, he's being denied this space like we just talked about. And if you just noticed, Effect actually just dropped down from this high ground right here, and now he's out in the open. So for all intents and purposes, Hanzo's out of position, Reaper's out of position, and Roadhog's out of position. Well, you could argue Roadhog's not out of position, but you know, he's on cart duty. So you really needed this Hanzo to be here and Reaper to be playing like a corner somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where, but maybe somewhere down here playing a corner and then popping out at the right moment. Unfortunately, he's literally just out in the open on the ground, and this whole team is about to get grabbed. So this high pressure composition is not going to work with this with only the Bastion and Orisa right here in this spot. So they're going to get easily pushed out. So they get pushed out, and we're going to get a nice meaty grab. There it is. Everyone's just gets sucked in, and that's it. Now, in theory, if Dynasty had played this correctly from this point on, they actually could have full held on second point. Again, because of this composition that Fuel is running. This composition does not push out very easily. Like we talked about, setting up takes a fair amount of work for this composition. So this should have called for a swap. However, Fuel sticks to their guns, and thankfully for Fuel, Dynasty makes a pretty big blunder in a bit, so we'll talk about that. Okay, so cool, so we just got a wipe here. And I believe we're going to see a swap from Seagull to Pharah from the Hanzo. So there it is. Now, I'm not a big fan of this swap. And the reason being, like we talked about earlier, that's going to put a ton of strain onto this Mercy. She's going to be spread really thin with this composition. like I said, I would have liked to see, he could have stayed on the Hanzo, he could go for a Junkrat, could go for a Tracer, for a Soldier. You know, I'm not sure if Seagull plays any of those characters, but I think this Pharah isn't really going to work out. And it actually doesn't. Again, it really is on Dynasty to throw this second point, which they do. Okay. All right, so right here, we're going to see a really sick play from Mickey. So we're poking. That Supercharger is okay. I don't hate it, but that's not the good play. So let's keep watching. Right there, if you saw on the top of your screen, Miro, similar to what he was doing earlier when he was trying to dive that Widow on first point, he was looking to get high ground space, which is generally a really good thing. And Miro is the king at that, at clearing space and using his environment to block damage and, you know, and create space that way. However, Mickey gets a really nice halt and drags him down. And that should have been the play that got Fuel back into this second point. However, if we look at this composition, we're going to see how this Pharah, there's just no easy way for this team to engage. So the Pharah doesn't put in a lot of work. The Reaper doesn't put in a whole lot of work. Bastion struggles to get into position, and you kind of see it all fall apart. So watch. So nice, that's awesome, right? You would think, okay, cool, Fuel should have this, but again, they have trouble setting up. That's just the nature of their composition. So watch how. And actually, look at these health bars. These health bars are critical, man. We got a ton of people low. Seagull, Effect, Mickey, Taimu, they're basically all at half. And actually Bastion a little bit too. We're stressing out that Mercy. So there's just no way to go in. The engagement tools are weak, like we talked about. And that's it. And to be fair, Dynasty put in some ultimates into that. They put in the, just now, the self-destruct and the Riptire. However, Fuel also put in the Supercharger and the Roadhog's ultimate, Whole Hog. So, you know, fairly equal trades there. Yeah, and there you have it. And that's basically it. It's going to be really hard for Fuel to push this out. But here comes the mistake, right here. This is where Dynasty throws. It's the same problem they had last time. They forgot about that third DPS. They just killed Seagull. They just killed Effect. Well, they're about to, rather. He's about to die. And they think, awesome, cool, we can do this. But again, the Bastion, you got to remember that third DPS. Super high threat. So they greed, and there's that Bastion just waiting, just saying, please come to me. And this isn't Zumba's fault. This was clearly a team call for them to finish off that Reaper, but it was very greedy. Very, very, very greedy. And Zumba pays for it. And there it is. And that's the opening that Dynasty gave Fuel, similar to last time, where Miro got a little bit too greedy, didn't respect the hook, died, and they turned the fight. And here we go again, same thing. They're gonna turn this now because they have a huge advantage. There's the res on Effect, and now they can confidently push forward because it's a 6v5. Right there, I'm not quite sure how he got that hook, but now it's super over. This basically guarantees second point. Now you're gonna see here Mickey. He swapped to the Diva. That's perfectly reasonable. That doesn't really change the functionality of the composition, which in a moment we're gonna talk about how Dynasty changes their composition, which totally changes the way it functions, whereas Fuel's does not. And the thing I want to highlight, oh, sorry about that. The thing I want to highlight, the reason it doesn't change the composition is that Bastion was never using Orissa's shield in the first place. He was always off to the side, right? That's kind of the innovative part of the strategy. Whereas in a more traditional comp, the Bastion would be with the Orisa. So switching to this Diva doesn't actually change the way Harry Hook's playing, which is why this swap is perfectly reasonable. Yeah. So they're gonna keep spreading out. As you can see here, this is probably my favorite part of this match. This is such a good position, and you can tell that this strategy was well practiced by Fuel. Well, I'm guessing. I don't know for certain, but I think it is, because this spot is awesome from Bastion. He's covered from this left side. He's got good environment protection here. Good environment protection from the bottom. Basically impossible for someone from the bottom to shoot him. And then he has really good sight lines to those chokes on the right, which we're going to see in a second. So again, we talk about how this composition sets up. When they set up, they're super dangerous, and right now they are very well set up. They have a good split going on. Bastion and Mercy are working together. We have Roadhog here on the left. At least I believe that's Roadhog. And then everyone else on the ground. I believe that's Reaper here. So yeah, let's watch this play out.
It does become a bit of a mind game.
Oh yeah, and there's the Pharah too, just playing in the air. So we can see on that right side, he has total perfect sight lines on these points, in addition to this window here.
So if you can get him to hold that sound barrier and play the game of chicken, you're
Oh, this is so nasty. This position is so gross. And to be fair, Dynasty, Miro should have pushed out with Zumba with the nice matrix. However, they weren't on the same page, and that's it. This is done. This fight's just totally over, even though Seagull dies right here. Yeah, I'm still not a fan of that Pharah, but again, this was Dynasty throwing here, not necessarily. Well, I don't want to take anything away from Fuel because obviously they played this very well, but in terms of the Pharah pick, they definitely didn't do well because of the Pharah pick. All right, so amazing spot for that Bastion there. And everyone just knows their role. It's beautiful to watch. Okay, so now let's talk about the swaps coming out of Dynasty. So they're about to click in a moment, and there it is. Okay. So basically, what this tells me is Dynasty thought, okay, you know what? Let's just go back to comfort picks. This quad tank thing wasn't working, and they were slowly kind of morphing into this, transitioning into the standard pick anyway, or the standard composition anyway. They're just kind of slowly, the last couple minutes, just been going into that. And then they decide to settle on it. Now, this composition is okay. It's standard. To be honest, I think their original composition, or some form of it, would have been perfectly reasonable. Again, it comes back down to just these execution errors where, Miro got hooked that one time where he got a little greedy, and then when they got greedy for the Reaper and they overextended. So the composition would have been fine, and actually I think it was actually a perfectly good counter, if you can even use that word, into this Fuel composition. But hey, they thought, you know what, it's last point, let's just play standard. The Widow and the Soldier will do well into the Pharah. However, you're about to notice that Seagull is going to switch off of this Pharah, which is a perfect choice. I believe he swaps onto Junkrat. And that's it. And it's going to be very hard for Dynasty to play into this composition.
Too soon. Miro engaged a bit too early,
all right.
And he was just shot.
So again, we see Harry Hook. He's going to set up on the side. He's not going to do the pirate ship strategy. You're going to see him. He's gonna change his configuration right there. There it is. He's not looking to play the cart. Here again, we see the team spreading out, looking to split up. That's the nature of this composition. They're setting up. It's great. Right here, Dynasty goes for a dive. And Effect was crouching, but now he has to go. He does a very smart thing. He actually lets the Widow know that he's onto her, not because he wants to kill her, but because he wants her to move. Because if he had been crouching this whole time to get a sneaky kill, by that time the fight could be over. So very smart of him. Right now, he's just going to start stomping the ground. He's not crouching at all. Right there, that Widow hears him. She gets away, and that's all Effect needed to do. He just needed to get her to move. That's going to help the team with the rest of this fight. And with this fight, you're going to see them trade ultimates. I believe it's 2 for 2. 2 tank ults for 2 tank ults. And it's going to go in the favor of Fuel. Again, when this composition sets up, they're so dangerous. Even though it looked like Effect didn't do a whole lot in that fight, that's all he needed to do, which is get that Widow to move and mitigate the amount of damage she could put out. Make sure she's not safe. Again, we see Harry Hook, kind of setting up in these odd angles. Same with Effect. He's looking to flank, get into the enemy backline. And at this point, it sucks to say, but this game's kind of over. If we look at the ultimates, we have a Valk over no Valk, not even close. And we have Death Blossom and tank configuration coming up only to a tack visor. So and to be fair, there is an infrasight happening right now, but that's not exactly the tool you need at this moment. And that's basically it. So this is now on Fuel to lose this fight, which they do not. They actually play it pretty well. Effect gets caught right here in the corner. You're going to see that in a moment. Right about now on the right side, there he is. He's getting caught. He dies. That's okay. You have Valk. And at this point, it's just an ultimate battle. And that hook just seals the deal. That's it. This is over. There's almost no way at this point Dynasty can bring this back. So at this point, it's just cleanup. Fuel just keeps hitting their shots and just plugging away. So that's pretty much it. I think the big takeaway of this map was that, and obviously Junkertown is a map that is fairly different from other escort maps, but I think the takeaway is that in Overwatch, you can always diversify your team compositions pretty radically. Like this composition, just the playstyle alone, even though people complain about Bastion on Junkertown, this was a totally new style of Bastion that we haven't really seen in professional play very much, if at all. I'm not exactly sure. And it's really exciting. So I hope people see this video, and I hope they recognize just how much potential Overwatch has. This composition that Dallas Fuel brought out was just so amazing to watch. And I don't want to take anything away from Dynasty either. The quad tank comp on Junkertown was also really cool. I think it could have played well into this composition. There was just some execution errors there. So I hope you like this video. If you do, please like the video and please subscribe. Thank you.